My name is Dan Young, and welcome to the Millionaire Code podcast. I'm a self-made guy that has made multi-million-dollar businesses from scratch. There's no way I could have done it without the help of mentors who provided me with the wisdom and guidance to help me create the formula for success. Each week on my podcast, I'm going to interview a hugely successful business person that will provide you their secrets to success, and that way can act as your mentor too. I can't wait to share their stories and takeaways with you. Welcome to Dan's Millionaire Code. Hi guys, Dan Young here from Dan's Millionaire Code podcast. I have Brandon Fugal here, one of my really good friends. We've known each other for a long time. You're going to freak out when you hear about how amazing this man is. I want you to take notes during this podcast because what he's going to teach you is going to probably change your life, because I know a lot of what he showed me has really changed the perspective on how I've built my business and all the businesses that I have. So it's amazing stuff that he'll share with you. Let me just share with you a couple things too about Brandon. He's a good friend of mine. We've known each other a long time. He's the chairman of Colliers International.
Yep, Colliers International.
The number one commercial real estate firm in the Intermountain West.
Correct.
Number one. He was recently named CCIM Utah Agent of the Year and 2019 Office Broker of the Year, for which he's been recognized for the majority of the past decade. During the last year, Brandon has leased over, it's probably even bigger now, 1.6 million square feet.
Yeah, just the last year.
Negotiate over 150 deals.
Yeah, if I'm not closing 2 or 3 deals a week, I start getting worried. So
wow.
We try to keep the velocity.
It's amazing. This is amazing. And one more thing that I wanted to mention too. You've been featured in Wall Street Journal, Bloomberg, Money Magazine, and I see your name on every major development in the state. I drive around, live with friends and clients. I'm like, hey, it's my buddy Brandon. Look at it. Like, how do you get your name on? How do you get all these listings? What's the?
You know, it's interesting. I currently represent anywhere from 150 to 200 projects at any given time, and obviously when we're closing 2 or 3 deals a week, we're in many cases either leasing or selling ourselves out of a job. And it's funny. I often say that it feels like we're keeping the sign company on business because we're just simply constantly ordering signs and raising the profile of our projects. And really, what it all comes down to is execution and results. I think activity begets activity. People see that.
I'm taking notes on this.
The people see that the activity generated by launching any number of major projects that provide not only the leading employment in the state, but also the amenity base for our communities. Really, it creates a center of gravity that people I think not only want to replicate in other locations, but they're also constantly, I think, trying to recruit new talent to here in Utah. Yeah, with a 3% unemployment rate in Utah, we're in a unique position. It's a two-edged sword. It really denotes a very healthy environment, but at the same time, we're now, as a community, looking to recruit from outside the Intermountain West in order to bring new talent in. And we're trying to be at the forefront of developing, marketing, and really envisioning the projects of the future that will employ and provide amenities and services to the next generations. So we're community builders. That's essentially what we do, is we build communities, and I don't think that there is another career on the planet that gives one a more tangible manifestation of their labors than commercial real estate. I have the privilege of driving down the freeway and being able to see the projects that are really changing the landscape of our communities and really taking us to the next level. It's very gratifying.
It's kind of interesting, though. I mean, as I drive, I love to drive and just look for different properties. See what's going on, maybe an opportunity I can get involved with. Again, and seeing your name in all these buildings, but you do see, it's interesting, a lot of random names. So you'll see,
a lot of partners. So you're only as good as your team and the people that you surround yourself with, and I'm very fortunate to have some of the best partners in the industry working with me to help execute. When you're in the professional services business, you're really selling you and your market intelligence. You're the Sherpa you're the trusted guide or the advisor to the captains of industry. And many times, even though, of course, I have my finger on the pulse of every facet of the transaction that we're negotiating, I have a good team right with me by my side that are really helping to ensure that our execution is seamless. And I think having that team-oriented approach is what differentiates us. It's not about me.
How big is your team now here in Utah?
Our company here in Utah has about 250 professionals.
Wow.
All centered primarily along the Wasatch Front. In fact, not only are we the largest commercial real estate enterprise in Utah history, but we're really one of the leading operations in the United States.
Wow.
And a lot of what we do here in Utah sets the tone, the pace, and is really developing the template for how brokerage operates in other markets across the country for Colliers and also for some of the other boutique
To give
firms.
people a scope of how many transactions your company is involved with that you're in charge of.
Thousands. I mean, you look at
Dollar-wise?
Colliers International is one of the big four global firms. I merged my previous company, Coldwell Banker Commercial Advisors, last year with Colliers, and one of the reasons why I selected Colliers as my partner is they're the number one fastest growing global commercial real estate firm. They're one of the big four. They're representing, I think, more Fortune 500 companies than any firm right now.
Wow.
that has a presence in the Intermountain West, and they're in 68 countries. They're truly international and have a platform. And when you're aligned with a global company, you have to look at, okay, is it really a global platform that has seamless execution and standards across the board, regardless of whether you're in Salt Lake City, Utah, or Manhattan, or Tokyo, or even Vietnam? And with Colliers, what we've fortunately inherited in this merger is a company that truly is a platform. It's not just a network with a bunch of dots on a map with inconsistency.
Yep.
It really is a consistent top of the market leader.
Amazing.
That is setting the tone of the pace. Colliers also manages over 2 billion square feet of commercial space globally.
That's a
So
lot.
think about that, over 2 billion square feet. And we have the privilege of working with a lot of the leading companies, SAP, Adobe, Microsoft, Allstate Insurance, Boeing, you name it. I mean, some of the companies that are really changing in the same way that we're changing the landscape, literally, of our communities, these companies are changing the landscape of our economy and the global economy.
I want to press rewind a little bit because obviously you've grown a great empire, amazing, and I admire that a lot. But as an entrepreneur, you had to do something to stand out because at first you were just, getting started. Can you tell us how you went from small shrimp, just getting in the business to this?
No, it's a good question. I often say I'm just a glorified pots and pans salesman, and I always try to stay focused on that. But really, when I jumped into my career at age 18, I mean, I was 1 week out of high school, jumping into commercial real estate, focusing on the corporate world, which was very unique, and there was no one else either my age or really using technology at the time. I mean, this is circa summer of 1991, and
well, I was getting going too. We were both getting going.
we were both launching our careers at much the same time. You bet. And one thing I identified was there was really a lack of engagement with technology in commercial real estate. And so what I did early on is I developed a proprietary database tracking all of the inventory in the market. And a lot of this is old hat, of course, today. A contact management database program is nothing new or innovative today. But back in 1991, it was interesting. In 1991, there were very few professionals in the commercial real estate industry that were really using, with discipline, a contact management database program or tracking program that would really calibrate to identify who the companies would be, who are the most likely candidates in the future to be looking at office space, and who are the leading landlords, developers, property owners that are really providing the facilities and the projects to accommodate these growing companies. And so from a very young age, I mean, the first year that I spent in the commercial real estate business, I spent it in service to building this proprietary database.
Wow.
And this system. And really market intelligence, when it comes down to it, I think is key when you're a professional service provider. And even more than that, developing proprietary intelligence, knowing something that no one else knows. Developing that inside intelligence and that depth that you can bring to your clients. I mean, to someone like the likes of a Dan Young, who is a captain of industry, and helping them identify the most effective path for not only expanding their companies, but building wealth is really key.
This is huge because you're helping your clients with strategy.
Right.
Not just, let me find you a building, let me get you a good deal, negotiate and close it.
Yeah, you're a trusted advisor. And I think
different.
that's one thing that set me apart perhaps early on is I never really saw myself as a real estate agent or a commissioned salesperson. I saw myself as a trusted advisor. I wanted to be able to have the privilege of sitting at the table with leading entrepreneurs and captains of industry and really help them chart the course and build the strategic roadmap, governing their commercial real estate strategy. I mean, everyone on this planet in business has to have a real estate strategy, in my opinion. I mean, you can't get away from it. Even if you're in your garage or working out of your basement, you've got to have a real estate strategy. And if you're looking to scale and grow your company and your enterprise in the future, it's more important than ever to have kind of a strategic roadmap and a guide, a trusted advisor who can help you, I think, navigate around all the potholes and the pitfalls associated with that. I mean, you look at, the line item on any balance sheet, and commercial real estate and really a company's overhead or rent is really typically the second biggest line item, second only to people for the most part. And you look at that and the importance that has to a company's success or failure, and the amount of cost savings that can be achieved, or frankly the loss that can be that you can be saddled with if you're not really planning appropriately. It all comes down to having that strategic plan and being really guided through that plan in order to optimize.
So was it a slow grow? You came up with this technology, and then did you just build it through time, or did you just have some big catalyst?
I starved to death. I questioned my existence every other week. I was thinking, gosh, am I really in the right business? And it's funny, I made all of about $500 working full-time my first year. A lot of people don't realize this, but in the commercial real estate business, the sales cycle is very long. You'll engage with a potential client, and it may, from the first day, from inception to actually concluding a transaction where you actually get compensated, it can take months at minimum, and sometimes years to actually put together a transaction from start to finish. And only the strong survive. In fact, many who come to me looking for a career in commercial real estate are surprised when I tell them, plan on starving to death for the first year or two.
You tell them that up front.
Yep.
You're going to starve.
Yeah. Plan on
Get
not
used to
making
ramen noodles
anything. Plan on not making anything for the first year or two, because not only is the sales cycle long, but it takes some time to actually acclimate to the business and learn really not only the vernacular, but the process involved with representing, business leaders, with representing companies and business leaders, entrepreneurs relative to their real estate needs. And, there are different disciplines within commercial real estate. There's office, which is what I gravitated toward early. There's retail, where your shopping malls and your retail storefronts are oriented for the most part. You have industrial, you have land, you have investment, and then multifamily, which is a different asset class in and of itself. But finding an area of specialization is usually the right path in not only commercial real estate but life.
So you're laser focusing on office.
For the most part. And as a result of working with clients with a diversified portfolio, you end up having the opportunity to work on industrial and investment and other product types or other asset classes. But I think picking an area of specialization is typically very wise. Now, in some markets, you have no choice but to be more of a generalist. And depending on the size, scale of the market that you're working in, I mean, Utah has grown up the last 20, 30 years, and especially the last decade in a big way. When I started my career, the office market was a fraction of the size that it is now. And
you're in the right pond right now.
Yeah, it's
wow.
Yeah, Silicon Slopes, and really what we've seen created here along the Wasatch Front, as far as the center of gravity for innovation, is it's just astounding to see the growth and the technology transfer coming out of the universities. You look at the University of Utah that surpassed MIT. I think it was either last year or the year before with technology transfer, but also BYU, Utah Valley University, which is the largest institution in the state. And you look at all of the entrepreneurial talent coming out of these institutions. I mean, one of the great things about the Wasatch Front is we're really a college town, if you think about it. And I think if you're going to bet on markets, you bet on college towns, because you have this renewable resource of talent and innovation happening all the time.
There's a massive amount of entrepreneurs being germinated here.
You bet.
It's amazing.
It's an incredible environment, and people actually believe that they can be the next Bill Gates or Steve Jobs. I mean, people have not only the belief in themselves, but that pioneer spirit that really established the Intermountain West and established this area as kind of the crossroads of the West. It's still alive and well. You see it with the millennials. You see this pioneer spirit, this entrepreneurial drive that I think differentiates our market from others across the country, and it's that dream.
Let me ask you a question too about someone wanting to get into commercial real estate, maybe becoming one of your students or salespeople.
Sure.
Like, what's the best way? Let's say it's a young person. They're like, I want to be in commercial. I want to be like Brandon when I grow up. What do they do?
Good question. It's very difficult to break into. I'd mentioned the sales cycle. I think finding a mentor, finding someone that can be your mentor, even if you're just working for free, even if you're just being an intern or a glorified intern for that professional, will set you on the right course. I was very fortunate to have several really good mentors.
Locally here?
Right here locally, that put their arm around me early on and allowed me to shadow them, to work with them on transactions and really learn the process. And I think there's no better teacher than really life and actually being right in the trenches and actively engaged in really the process of negotiating deals and seeing how they come together. It's quite fluid. And one thing about the commercial real estate business, no one deal or no two deals are alike. Rather, it's a very fluid, very creative business. You would never guess that, but there's so many different types of transactions and different personalities driving the transactions with different preferences and criteria that you have to take into account. So I think finding the right mentor is going to be very important. I think gathering knowledge, your own intelligence is going to be very important, and constantly being in really the mode of learning. I mean, one thing that I've done since I was a teenager, every week in, week out, is I consume a lot of periodicals. I read Wired, Bloomberg Businessweek, Forbes, Fortune, the Wall Street Journal. I'm constantly trying to digest everything I can about the world around me, not just that which is commercial real estate oriented, but just every industry. That's the thing that I realized early on is commercial real estate touches every type of business on the planet. Again, everyone needs to have a real estate strategy, and positioning yourself as a trusted advisor to those key decision makers to help them really optimize their business strategies and hopefully see some equity out of it.
I wanted to tell you what people say behind your back.
Oh, shoot.
And it's good stuff.
When you're a big target, when you have hundreds of signs all over the market,
people say good things. I'm talking about other tech entrepreneurs like myself that are friends that are doing big projects and things. And I say, so why do you like working with Brandon? What's great? And all of them have said that you're relentless in your execution. Like, there's not a lot of holiday. It's not, it's getting cold, so hey, you know what? For 6 months, I'm going to go to Cancun and not sell anything. You know how some people do that? Even in your industry, it's like,
absolutely.
Your finger's not ever off the button.
No, in fact, I'm probably a very poor example of work-life balance. one of the things that I need to work on better is probably having a lot more work-life balance. I have been, again, you stated it, ruthless in my execution, and it's hard when your hobby is your vocation, is what you do for a living. It's both a blessing and a curse.
You seem so happy though executing like that. It doesn't seem like it makes you sad, like you're like, oh, we're good too.
No, it's the greatest rush.
You get a buzz.
I mean, closing deals, working with people like you, seriously, is a rush. And it was never about the commissions. It was never about money to me early on. The reason a lot of people ask me, well, what drives someone who's 1 week out of high school to focus on commercial real estate and office brokerage? And it was truly because it was the only career path that I could identify at a young age that would afford me the opportunity to work with the captains of industry.
So you didn't go to a university for...
I did. I actually had a scholarship to what is now Utah Valley University. But I stacked my classes early in the day so I would be freed up to focus on my career for the balance, and ultimately ended up transitioning full-time to my career. After I really built my practice, it didn't make a whole lot of sense. Again, I would never advise my own children or anyone else not to get their college degree. I mean, you really have to have that in order to succeed in today's environment in a lot of ways. But for me, after a year and a semester, the opportunity cost, if you will, of sitting in class as opposed to being out there and really waging war.
I think we have a similar story because I went to the U for a little bit, right? And community college for a little bit. And I asked myself, how much did I want to make? How successful did I want to be when I get my degree? Yeah. And about a year into it or so, I was exceeding what I thought I was going to school for.
Right.
And so I had to just dive in. It sounds like you dived in.
I did.
Just
I dove in head first, and
wow.
And I never looked back. And one of the things that I've conditioned myself to do on a daily basis is really think of myself as being perpetually unemployed. You're only as good as your next deal, your next client, your next project, and it feels like, on a day-to-day basis that I've conditioned myself since I was a teenager to really expect that I've got to go out and dig up the next 20 deals, and that's the thing is. As a sales professional, every deal you close, you're unemployed. You've got to go out and build the pipeline.
So every day's a startup for you?
It is.
It's like a startup.
Indeed. And so, I've kind of psyched myself out my entire career into thinking that I'm just right on the edge of unemployment and hitting the reset button. But it's really helped me be disciplined and focused. I mean, there's nothing like good old-fashioned fear to really drive you, and fear of not only the unknown, but also cyclical risk. That one thing that you can always plan on in business is change. There are no constants. Business is full of constant change, and in today's internet economy, as you know better than anyone, change is almost minute to minute. I mean, markets can change in just a moment's time,
and opportunities, right?
Exactly. We're living in the greatest time on the planet, on the planet's history, and what we're witnessing right now, I believe, is the greatest renaissance of innovation, of thought leadership. You're leading that with your own podcast here, and really bringing thought leaders to the table to help mentor others. But you see people really accelerating the rate of change and growth.
I think you're going to be having listings on Mars.
Oh, hey,
office space on Mars.
You never know. They're
#1 Martian developer.
Well, you look at what SpaceX, Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos have been putting a lot of their time and energy. I mean, two of the most influential, wealthy men on the planet. You look at true innovators, and what Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk are doing in the space race is nothing short of astounding, with SpaceX being really the big launch and the transportation provider really for the future. And it's all shifted from NASA, from governments, or from public enterprise to private enterprise. And I think that same innovation that you see applied in space will be seen in other industries across the board. But you're right. There will be real estate deals in the future.
We'll see your name on the buildings on the moon base or the
there you go.
Mars base there.
Space habitats. There's a guy in North Las Vegas. It's a good friend of mine, Robert Bigelow Aerospace. Not to get off on a tangent, but he made his money. He's a billionaire who made his wealth in developing the Budget Suites of America chain nationwide, and he has now been focusing his wealth on developing the space habitats program of the future, partnering with the likes of SpaceX to I think in the future not only replace the International Space Station but also establish Moon and Mars habitats. Living habitats. And
this is your friend. So.
Yeah. So real estate, not to go off on a tangent, but get ready to see in the next 10, 20 years the real estate and the commercial real estate business really gravitating toward the space age and the space race.
I want to shift gears yet again about the biggest, scariest moment in your career since you were 18. And how'd you deal with it?
God, biggest, scariest moment. Well,
we've gone through some interesting economic cycles and things.
I should say. Biggest, scariest moment for me, and I think a lot of people will share this same view, the banking crisis.
Oh.
We all lived through a very, very frightening time in our country and world's history a couple of years ago, just a few short years ago, when we had a banking crisis that literally paralyzed the market. So when you see the flow of money stop and people paralyzed by fear, by restrictions, it creates this very negative snowball effect that puts a stranglehold on innovation. It literally, I think, is the scariest thing to witness. I mean, we saw a period of time, it was for a few weeks during that crisis where the phones just stopped ringing to a degree. And, all of those signs, you talk about the hundreds or thousands of signs that we have on properties, there were very few inquiries for a period of time. Thankfully, it was a very short period of time, and we started to build back, and people shook off their fear, and I think the banking climate changed for the better in a lot of ways.
Did some people? Did you see a lot of people in commercial real estate agents quit, get out of the business,
yes.
Freak out?
We saw. Again, people were paralyzed by fear, and when people are paralyzed, when the process of buying and selling stops because of fear, it's a scary thing.
How did you stay courageous? How did you not quit, chicken out, leave?
We didn't change anything we were doing. You still show up every day, and you focus on really educating people as to the opportunities that are found in a down market or in a market that is paralyzed to a degree, where people are reacting because of fear. Opportunity ends up presenting itself. And I think that's one beautiful thing about the economy is as long as people are buying or selling, it doesn't matter whether it's an up market or a down market, as long as people are doing business and transacting business, you're seeing a progression. When people cease to do business or they're paralyzed by fear, it's a scary time. So I'd probably say that was a frightening time for me and everyone in the industry.
Did you have clients during that lowest time call you and go, man, it's a big sale, let's buy? And
yes.
How did they do? How are they doing today from the deal as you found them then?
It was funny. It was an interesting dynamic because Utah is a very conservative market by nature. We don't participate in the wild upswings typically, or the upticks, but we haven't seen, the pain or the depth of the downturns. We've been buffered to a degree because of our conservatism, and during the banking crisis, you would have expected that there would be a lot of bank-owned real estate, foreclosure properties, and opportunities. There weren't. In fact,
wow.
I was getting calls on a weekly basis from people all over the country and frankly, a number of international players that were trying to identify distressed properties that they could come in and buy, bank-owned real estate here in Utah and really the Intermountain West, but specifically to really Utah, the Utah market, there were very few opportunities that existed at that time because most people underwrote their deals conservatively, and really the development community has been dominated by multi-generational, family offices and family development companies that have stayed true to their core principles, and in most cases weren't really over leveraged. They were able to weather the storm, and that conservatism helped them make it through that rough patch, if you will.
That's a big deal.
And I think that's one of the beautiful things about being in a dynamic secondary or tertiary market like Utah, the Salt Lake City or the Provo-Orem MSA is we're a bit buffered from the coastal markets. Again, we don't see anywhere near the value creation in some years, but we thankfully have not participated to the same degree in the downswings. And so that was a scary time. The other scary time in my life was I took a break for 2 years between the ages of 19 and 21 and went on a mission for the Mormon Church. And hitting the pause button on my career after building that proprietary database and building the momentum that I had in learning the business and the vernacular and frankly, a pipeline of deals that I had in process. And then putting a hold on that and going on a service mission was terrifying. It was scary to me, and I thought, "Gosh,
where'd you go?"
Hawaii. I know someone has to go to Hawaii.
That's not a bad spot.
It was
to go.
tough duty.
Got a good tan.
I went best mission on the planet, but everyone hated me for it. They all thought I should have gone to some terrible third world country, but it was a great experience, and I would say a lot of the core principles that I learned, that I was able to develop. The habits and even the processes developed in the mission field as a Mormon missionary were directly applicable to business upon my return. I was able to apply a lot of what I learned, not on a religious or a spiritual basis necessarily, even though that plays a role in life, but I was able to apply a lot of the core principles.
You learned how to deal with rejection a lot more.
Oh, yeah. Well, and the funny thing is I was well prepared going into the mission field because I had already been cold calling businesses and going through office buildings.
Did you have a good conversion rate?
Yeah, it depended on the area.
Take those leads.
Yeah, I was lucky. It was a great experience, but that was frightening. It was getting outside of my comfort zone and hitting the pause button to focus on something that was not business and really not conventional. It was very unconventional, especially as far as the world is concerned. Was scary, and it ended up being the best 2 years of my life as far as the most influential time that I've had looking back. I mean, there isn't a day that goes by that my relationships, that the way I conduct myself, that even the way that I look at the world is not informed by that experience that I had between 19 and 21. And so those are probably the two.
That's great.
Pivotal moments.
You've achieved actually, 3 huge pillars, and I'd say financially, you don't really need more money. You could retire if you wanted to many times over, so that's not an issue. So you do it to help your clients and add value. Physically, you're in good shape.
I try.
You haven't let it all go to donuts, and non-exercise. You look very fit. And spiritually and personal development-wise, you seem very centered. So it seems like you've achieved.
You've
tricked me.
Again, I'm not. I try to be, but the reality is, I mean, life. It's a test, and it's a learning experience, and I feel like I'm constantly learning and growing and screwing up, and hopefully trying to learn from my mistakes.
Where are you going from here, though?
Good question.
What do you want to be when you grow up, man? I like to ask my friends.
My goal for the future, I think. I'd like to inspire others on their paths, whatever those may be. I want to continue to have an impact on the communities we serve and the businesses the entrepreneurs that we have the privilege of serving. Again, I'd mentioned this earlier, but the beautiful thing about commercial real estate is it gives one a very tangible manifestation of their labors. To be able to drive down the freeway or drive through these communities and to be able to see, the impact of what we're able to pull together and create. I mean, we're in a very unique, trusted position, and it's a very honored position to be able to help guide community leaders and entrepreneurs and really change the landscape in a very literal way. And I look forward to the projects of the future. I look forward to helping to contribute to these communities and to help elevate the discussion to higher and better uses of not only properties, but also enabling entrepreneurs to be able to realize their dreams and to be able to execute on their business strategies. And, real estate's a big part of that. I mean, your real estate here, I mean, I look at the operation for your enterprise, and it is nothing short of impressive. And I see everything. I mean, being able to create a culture and to create an environment where people like to come to work, where people feel inspired, is something to behold and to be a part of.
This is amazing. I think you're only getting started, man. You're just getting started. Man.
I'm
waiting for those Moon and Mars properties.
Yeah, trying to just getting warmed up. And again, you're only as good as your next deal in this business. And no one cares what you did last year or even yesterday. They're like, well, what have you done for me, and what are you teeing up for the future? Especially when you're working with developers. And I have the privilege of working with some incredible developers. In fact, I'll just say it. The best developers in the Western United States are right here, and I have had the honor of working with some very, very incredible people.
You've done some incredible stuff. I'm just blown away. I want to recap a few pieces of wisdom here that you've shared with the audience here. Is one of them is find a mentor, right?
Right.
Find someone who can show you the way.
Even if you have to beg them to just work for free, to shadow them.
Beg, work for free.
Yeah, it's priceless. I tell everyone, starving to death that first year or two in the business was my Harvard MBA equivalent. It was so critical to my growth, to be able to learn from those that have gone before, that have really set the pace.
That is huge. So that's the big one. So number one, find a mentor. And work for free if you have to.
Yep.
To do an internship.
Whatever it takes.
Do anything.
Remember Bud Fox on Wall Street, but don't repeat his mistakes. Great movie, by the way. I love it's required viewing for all of my partners.
Which movie is that?
Wall Street.
Oh.
The late '80s. It's with Michael Douglas, Charlie Sheen. It shows you what to do and what not to do in life and business. But there are some real. Again, core principles that are really touched on in that show that are still as true today as they were in the late 1980s.
So go out there and watch Wall Street, Amazon, Netflix,
Wall Street,
wherever you can.
Great show.
Gather knowledge. There's another big one. Always be gathering knowledge.
Always be learning. Always be consuming information and learning. And whether that be even if you can get on a podcast like this and be able to learn from those who are experts in their businesses, in their sectors. And I think that's why I consume so much on a weekly basis. As far as print material, I try to learn from those who are better positioned than I am in all sectors of the economy. And it's constantly changing, so keeping up with the rate of change and the trends, that's going to be critical to success.
Gather knowledge, always be learning. And then back to your first principle, which I have as your third principle, but it's probably your first principle, is you're only as good as your last deal. So treat everything.
You're only as good as your next deal.
Your next deal.
So, yeah, in fact, no one cares how much money you made last year, how much success you had in the past. People want to know, what do you have teed up for the future? What are you doing now and tomorrow in order to position yourself and your clients, the people that you serve, for success? What are you doing to help people succeed and to achieve their goals? And and how are you going to execute on that vision?
Someone asked me, actually, Dan, what's the one big secret to business? And I think we share that is we find people's pains and we heal them. We alleviate that pain and
You're
make things
a problem
good.
solver.
Yeah, we fix problems.
Being a problem solver is key to success, and that's across the board. I mean, that applies to every industry.
Wow, this is amazing. You're an amazing resource and wonderful community member and helping everybody. This is incredible, and I'm excited because being in tech here in Utah, I'm so excited about the talent that's coming here, the companies coming here, more and more opportunity.
I can't believe what we're witnessing right now is astounding, and I think we're just getting warmed up. I think it's going to be fun to watch the future.
Let me ask you, Christian, where can people meet you? So if someone owns a business and they want big office space or they, anything to do with commercial real estate, you can direct them in the right.
Email me anytime. I mean, Google me. You can easily find my my cell phone, believe it or not, and text me. I don't shut off. So again, I need to work better on my work-life balance. I work 18 to 20 hours a day, so I'm very responsive and try to always be on and accessible. But my email is Brandon, BRANDON, .fugal, FUGAL, at Colliers, COLLIERS.com. And shoot me an email. It may take me a few hours, and you may hear from me at 2 a.m., but would love to assist. And again, I'm constantly trying to see what we can do as service providers to really serve our communities and the business leaders in a better, more effective way. And a lot of people ask me, "Oh, what has been your goal? Since you were 18 years old, jumping into the business right out of high school." And my goal is, it's never been really money or some specific dollar amount. It's always been centered on one thing, and that is total market domination.
Total market domination. Yeah. Well, it's happening right now.
Yeah, and the only way to achieve total market domination in any business is to develop proprietary intelligence that no one else has, to be able to solve problems in a way that no one else can solve problems, and to bring that intelligence to bear in service to that. So I'm looking forward to the future, and it's a privilege working with so many good people like you.
Wow. Thank you, Brandon. This is a master Jedi here.
No, I'm looking forward to the future, and we're just getting warmed up in business, and we're going to see some incredible changes.
So, friends, watch this over and over again. Take notes. Mrs. Brandon, if he can help you with commercial real estate as well. There's nothing to buy on this podcast. There's no advertisers, and you're wondering, how do we do that at Dan's Millionaire Code? Well, we have very kind human beings who've achieved massive amounts of success, paying it forward to you. So what can you do to pay us back for the knowledge? You can do this. You can execute, execute, and share this information, this podcast, with your loved ones. That's what you can do. And as you know, you can find Dan's Millionaire Code everywhere: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, iTunes Store, everywhere. Please, please, please share it with your friends. I thank you guys and girls for joining us today. Have an awesome week.
Later.